So, welcome to the Kingdom Calling podcast again, where we will go through the big games in Kerry last weekend, and we had one, of course, as well up in Waterford, and we had the Desmond's ladies, well done to them, winning up in Mallow, and we'll feature them later on when they get to the All-Ireland semi-final. But I suppose the big game at the weekend was the Munster Senior Club, and that quarter-final was played in Lewis Road in front of a multitude, a huge crowd. You saw it live and exclusive as well on Clubber TV. And with me to discuss that and the victory of Austin Stacks over Laune Rangers. An injury hit Laune Rangers, to be fair to them, but a good win for the Stacks. Are three wise men, well, 2.5, when you take Clive into account. You have to look first of all at John Kennedy. John, 3 times, I have said this 24 times this year so far, and I'll say it again, but it doesn't increase the number of medals he has. He has 3 All-Ireland medals, which is 3 more than the rest of the panel, and also, of course, has managed at the top level, Clare at senior level, and of course as well he has managed club sides, and he's managed the Kerry minors, so a hugely intelligent manager, and maybe not football, but certainly a manager, yes. Very quickly pushed over that, and a great analyst for the game. We have kind of we get a loan him every week from Terrace Talk and Donald Barry. Thanks, Donald. Next we have John O'Dowd. No introduction needed there. Freelance journalist, deals with a lot of sports. Some he shouldn't be dealing with at all, but we'll say nothing. And involved with Clubber as a commentator and an analyst, pitch side reporter, you name it. John can do it. John, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
And Clive O'Callaghan, who this year was coaching at Fert. John Mitchell's man, of course, and a nephew, is it, of the 2 great Mitchell's men.
That's it.
John Tarney O'Shea and the great Derry O'Shea. And anybody who knows their football history or look back in the record books will know what those 2 buckos got up to when they were playing. Brilliant finishers and absolutely great characters as well. So Clive involved in coaching as well, and coached and played with the Mitchells. You weren't a bad soccer player either, you and Clive. A bit rough and ready, but you were okay. So Clive is a very good analyst as well, so hopefully he will add to the conversation and you will enjoy it. So first of all, John Kennedy. John, Dr. Crokes, fortunate to win this game, deserved to win it, or what's the story? Were you impressed by them?
Yeah, you'd have to say it was a mixture of a number of things. Murt is that they deserved to win the game.
Yeah.
They were that bit better, but after 59 minutes, when Damien Callahan struck home the penalty, there was 3 points in it. Castlehaven were down a man due to Brian Hurley's red card. But at the same time, I think, anybody at the game, it was difficult to see Crokes being beaten. Mm-hmm. Some great performances again by them.
Yeah.
The bench, again, huge impact.
Oh, yeah.
Kieran Leary, Dahi Casey.
Should he be on the Kerry senior football team still? Did he retire too early?
I think it shows, though, Murt, is that, when a new management team comes in, it ignites and rejuvenates the whole setup and freshens it.
Yeah.
And I think with Kieran, like his role at the moment, obviously he's enjoying it.
Yeah.
And it's not about coming on and playing, he's coming on and making a difference.
Yeah.
And the other thing I said about Crokes, I felt this could have been a banana skin for them against Castlehaven, even though they were at home in Lewis Road.
Big physical men.
But having said that, they've got over this now. Where are they going to stop? They have a great panel, injury free. I like the way Pat is managing Charlie Keating. It shows his vision and the thought he puts into it. Other managers, maybe myself included, you'd say we'll play him, in a tight enough game, leave him on, but he pulled him off.
Yeah,
I think
I don't think it was injured. No, I don't think it was injury. Dennis Coleman maintained after that it was the fact that he was on a yellow card.
Maybe, yes, fair enough. But it's And the other thing about the Crokes is, look, there's different players popping up on different days. They're not depending on any one player. You know, we saw in the county final with Tony Brosnan, he probably forfeited his game, being marked by Tom O'Sullivan, didn't contribute to the scoreboard, but the last day it was Tony again. And you know, Brian Looney, you know, one of his quieter days, but others have come up, and it shows the strength and depth they have. But what an occasion though, Murt, in Lewis Road. Great crowd, great atmosphere, and a great win for Dr. Crokes.
I suppose, John, on that, the occasion, number one, it was massive, wasn't it? I mean, it was the biggest crowd. I think the Crokes had about 4,000 there, roughly. Now, it might be, the official figure might have been 3,800, 3,900, whatever. But if you consider the amount of kids that were left in there, and Bag's family, that brings it well up to nearly 4,500.
It was a very special place to be on Sunday, Murt.
Yeah.
I got over there early. I'd say I was there even maybe 2.5 hours before the game.
You were there at 8 a.m.
Not that early. Now, Jesse was there by that stage. But no, it was very special. And it just shows how a club and a community comes together when they know there's a big fixture that they're hosting. And it's going to be the same in Abbeydorney as we just spoke about earlier this weekend. The mothers and others, special hats off to them. They're fabulous in Dr. Crokes. They look after the media. They look after older members of the club.
They're brilliant, aren't they?
They look after young members of the club. I met Brian Looney earlier today, and he was telling me, like, every Tuesday evening when they're training, there's 7 or 8 lads travelling from college, whether that's Cork, Limerick, wherever, and they'll have the mothers and others will have dinner and everything for them after training and everything like that. Like it's fantastic.
They're outside of their football.
Yeah,
they're a super club.
They are a special
and
club.
have been for years.
Carl McMahon has taken over kind of the control of the pitch and all that kind of stuff and the surroundings, and between volunteers, between ushers, stewards, everything. The pitch was fantastic. Everything was perfect before even a ball was kicked, and then you got a hugely competitive Kerry versus Cork battle. And the first half in particular, there was absolutely nothing between the sides. 6 points to 5 at half time. A very, very even game. Whatever was said at half time in the Dr. Crokes dressing room, and with the benefit of that early penalty made by the driving run by Gavin White, the foul on Cian McMahon, and the way Tony Brosnan dispatched it, like, superbly.
Crossed the keeper.
Gave the keeper absolutely no chance. A big keeper in Dara Cahalane.
Yeah.
We do have to say, from a Castlehaven perspective, though, the pre-match loss of Damien Cahalane was probably expected.
Yeah.
And he did come on in the second half. But the absence of their centre-back, the current Cork senior defender, Rory Maguire, was absolutely massive blow to them.
Yeah.
And they never really recovered at the back from that, despite Mark Collins in a sweeping role and some very good young defenders, Thomas O'Mahony and Jack O'Neill. They're only 20 years of age. They played really well and they both kicked points. But once, as is the case with Dr. Crokes, once they managed to gain a foothold, get into the lead in that second half, and as John said, Castlehaven were dogged, they were brave. The Brian Hurley red card, totally out of frustration, really. The game wasn't going his way because Gavin White was having a stormer on him. Little rush of blood to the head by Brian. And the fact that Michael Hurley and Jack Cahalane were kept scoreless throughout the whole game as well. Yeah. They had huge county finals against Laune Rangers. I think they got 7 points between the two of them.
Yeah.
All from play. They were outstanding. They got no score the last day. That tells you everything about the Dr. Crokes defence.
Yeah, Clive, some of the matchups and the battles, I was intrigued. John has just mentioned it. Gavin White against Brian Hurley, right? And what intrigued me was, I always knew that probably Gavin White would have the pace from, you know what I mean, to get out and get up the field. But I was wondering how the battle would get on, the physical battle. And I was amazed to see the physicality of Gavin White. Like, I hadn't seen that in him. But talking to people who know him, say, even inside in the Kerry setup, he's one of the most physical players. If you won't bring in any young fella and you want to test him, see what kind of is metal, you put Gavin on him and he'll soon get him going, and he'll either react well to it or badly, and you know whether you have a player. That Gavin, I really thought he horsed him as well as outplayed him in lots. And was it 1 point Brian Hurley got from play? Yeah. From play. I mean, that from their most dangerous, probably one of their most dangerous and experienced attackers, that was some job. And there was other, David Shaw came out to midfield, there was other ones. Any of those strike you as being decisive?
The one with Gavin White, it seemed to be maybe a policy in the first half that Gavin was going to stay back. and mind the house and see how it played out. And you said he is a very physical player. He's a big man. But very noticeable on the resumption of the second half that Gavin had got a licence to put Brian on the back foot, which, you know, Brian probably wouldn't be as comfortable going the other way. And, you know, Gavin's burst up, there was a penalty, there was 3 points for Crokes straight away. And if you go back to the county final even, when Dingle were having their purple patch in the first half, it was a 5-1. Before half time, Gavin nails 2 monster points. You know, inspirational leadership from your big player standing up. And he done that at the start of the second half. The last day he drove on, and once Crokes get that lead, it's very hard to pick it back. And you know, even outside of Gavin, they only conceded 6 points in play, so they've been very happy with that. Over the course of the game, conceding 6 points when you consider, you know, that the 2 hurleys were there. Michael was obviously kept scoreless. Jack Callahan scoreless. And Crokes, you know, Damien Callahan gets the penalty coming into injury time. You'd say it's game on again, and Crokes just go down and kill it off with another couple of points.
Tony Brosnan, fantastic in that period.
Yeah, Tony was outstanding, you know.
And Kieran O'Leary.
Kieran O'Leary coming on again, making big impact, and they had, you know, they just had the class, and it was like a game. You know, we were speaking about Lewis Road there. It was a game Crokes were never going to lose at home.
Lose at home.
You know, Cork team coming to Killarney, and it's one thing coming to Killarney, but coming to Lewis Road, it was like not an option for Crokes to lose that game, and you know, you couldn't see it. Once Gavin White drove on, they got the penalty. The game was put to bed, really.
Yeah, I think it surprised me. I suppose I wouldn't say surprised me, but the dominance at times when basically Castlehaven goalkeeper had a sort of a day that he'd want to forget, like a good big man, good goalkeeper, but one of those days with his kick-outs were disastrous. If Micheál Burns probably had been more alert, he probably would have got a goal. And there was a few went out over the sideline. He just couldn't get his kick off. Then he had to kick long, and when he kicked long, Charlie and once again Mark O'Shea. I thought Mark O'Shea's work rate, I suppose we miss a lot of it because it's not the flashy Micheál Burns, Tony Brosnan stuff, and it's not like the searing runs of Gavin White or Evan Looney. Do you know what I'm saying? Or Brian Looney. But these guys like himself, Gavin and Charlie and Mark, I thought they were outstanding.
Yeah, they were outstanding, as you say. Look, Charlie has been a revelation this year, really. He's really developed, in spite of carrying a knock for throw to county championship anyway. But Mark O'Shea has been the standout player, really. Yeah. And as you said, it's not, but it's typical of Crokes. That flashy stuff that you get from some teams, it's the work rate, it's the simple things.
Yeah.
And you know, I suppose they do the simple things so well that it's so effective.
Yeah, I think the other thing, John, is in Jim Gavin's word whenever he was asked, trusting the process. That word process came in Jim's time. But they have a system and they stick with it. And you even see Pat on the sideline giving out when lads don't go back to where they should be or where they aren't, when he expects them to be wide, maybe when there's an attack going on, just at spread wide or into the corner, or the extra man back that's supposed to run back Keane McMahon. There's a lot of that, and I hope he's not too badly injured. I think to the shoulder belt and just high. But I think they are a team that are programmed, and programmed is probably the wrong word, but they have a system and they stick to it. I even noticed towards the end the way they were keeping possession. Yeah. That's Crokes, isn't it?
There's no better team to do it than Crokes. Really frustrate the opposition. They're so comfortable on the ball. But I think it's, like you said, programmed is one word to describe it, but it's the system. Everybody from 1 to 30, they know what to do. The subs coming in will do the same. They know what they have to do. They know their role. You rarely see a Crokes defender or attacker going in a cul-de-sac, taking the ball into tackle and being overturned. And if they do, you see Pat on the sideline. It won't happen the second time.
No, and if it happens the second time, they'll be on the bench.
And like they're switching a play from one wing to the other. You know, they know when to slow it down. They know when to ignite it. Get Gavin in, Evan Looney on the burst, breaking the tackle and popping it. And they're kicking from the zone. Yeah. Rarely you see him kicking from way out.
John, you might remember this because you have a good memory. Well, kind of good memory. There was a score that got towards the end, I think, where the ball was kicked from, we'll say, under the stand, right across to the far side. Can I remember who got that point? Was it Cian McMahon got it was an unbelievable switch of play, and it completely, they were down to 14 men at the time, and he put it over the bar. I thought it was class.
Yeah, it was as John said, different players on different days step up to the plate for Dr. Crokes, and the last day, a lot of the unsung heroes really put their names forward. Like Cian McMahon, as he said himself, like he was disappointed that he wasn't really scoring, in the previous games, even though his work rate was excellent coming out into the half-forward line and doing.
And you met his grandmother?
I did. And she was
asking for me, yeah. She's my woman, and she's always supported me, not like the rest of you, backstabbing me, but go on anyway.
But the last day, Cian again, I think he made, if I'm thinking back to the first half, he made a vital defensive interception at one stage. I'm not sure, was it an attempt that came off the post from Castlehaven, and he reacted first to the rebound to clear his lines. He got fouled for the penalty. He kicked a great score. He was involved in the incident that saw Brian Hurley sent off. Then you look at a decision that Pat O'Shea made before the game, which might have surprised a lot of people, because if you go back to the county final, the county semi-final, I'd say he was probably even starting in the quarter-final. John Payne hasn't really put a foot wrong all this season. He's been excellent. And then you hear before the game, you're just assuming that it'll be the same couple of changes, and John Payne didn't start on this occasion. And then you're saying Mikey Potts has come in. And remembering back to that county final, it was the introduction of Mikey Potts and Kieran O'Leary at the same time, about 7 minutes into the second half, that changed the whole course of the game against Dingle. So Mikey Potts was rewarded, and he rewarded management. He had an excellent performance the last day. Kicked a great point in the first half along with Charlie Keating. I think they were the only two scores from play.
He's got pace as well.
In the first half.
And not only has he got pace, John, but I also think he has it up here. He's clever.
Did really, really well. And then if you go back to, there was a score in the second half when I can't remember which Dr. Crokes player went for a shot, and it came back off the far post. And it was as if
that was Kieran O'Leary.
It was as if time stood still because the defence didn't react, and initially the Dr. Crokes player didn't react. He was probably shocked because he found himself as the farthest forward, and then he realised, I have a chance of a score here. Mikey Lynch, the corner back.
Yeah, exactly.
And he got on the ball and he said, geez, I might as well score here because I've got a chance. And he put it over the bar. It just summed up Dr. Crokes that he was actually the furthest forward at that stage. And that also tells you a lot about the modern game, when cornerbacks, they also have to be able to be corner forwards in the current Gaelic football world.
And on that, Clive, when Charlie Keating had to be withdrawn, David Shaw came around the middle of the field, and I thought he was very effective out there. In fact, he could probably play midfield. Now, they're two good enough midfielders, so he's not going to start there ever, I'd say. But he can come out as a third midfielder, etc. And I thought he was very effective. And as John said, the Crokes players, Evan, Looney, all the lads, every one of them. I mean, Fionn is now a full back. We never mention him. I don't know how we ever mentioned Fionn. Well, I have, of course, but you haven't mentioned Fionn in podcasts. But he's a full back. I mean, he's never been taken to the cleaners. He's been joining the attack. He's done nothing wrong. He's kind of the voice of reason back there.
Didn't give Michael Hurley an inch the last time.
No. I mean, he's playing very well. So what I'm saying is the versatility of the Crokes, 15, 17 or 18 of them that play, is something that really is exceptional.
Yeah, and I think you could go deeper than 17 or 18 with the Crokes. They're all smart.
You could. I mean, Dahi Casey came on. And we haven't seen Alex Hennigan at all in this particular game. He came on in other games. He's a man who can kick points for fun. He's a youngster, so his time will come.
And Dahi came on and he made a brilliant tackle. I did again, probably one at that stage, but he showed his hunger. It was out around the middle of the field, and it was a textbook, technically a brilliant tackle to dispossess a Castlehaven player. And, you know, with all he's won, there's no sign of hunger abating there. They're driving on, and they will fancy their chances of hitting Crow Park. They will be.
Hang on a second now. If this goes out and there's somebody in this panel talking about Crow Park, and they have still they still have to go to Waterford to play Rathcormac, Pat O'Shea will stop all these, and he will ensure that JC doesn't leave Killarney until after Christmas. But anyway, I know what you're saying.
To go the distance in this competition, they'll see nothing. They'll see, obviously they'll respect every opponent because they would have maybe got a scare in Waterford before, but they will fancy their chances of any opponent that's left in the competition that they can match up, and they can, no better man than Pat to put a game plan in place to beat any opposition.
That's what he does. John, physically, will they, I suppose Castlehaven were as physical and as big a men as you'll find. Could that be an Achilles heel or maybe a weakness in the Crokes team, or are they hardy buggers?
Oh, they're hardy, Murt, I can tell you. They're, I think, football wins out at the end of the day, and skill, and, decision making on the ball, the movement, creating
football
the space.
intelligence. Football
intelligence. It's you need a certain amount of power, but you look at a number of their players like Brian Looney, Mark O'Shea, Dahi Casey coming in, David Shaw, Tony Brosnan. These guys can mind themselves as well. And they're not. But it's not the style of play Crokes have. They don't go into the physicality. It's skill. It's football. It's using the space. It's the movement on and off the ball. That's why they are the team they are. And I think, I'd agree with Clive. I think, the sky's the limit for them now. I think, coming out of Kerry, let's not forget, one defeat in this campaign. And, they were hugely disappointed with that defeat, and they have recovered. They're county champions. I think they'll be
one defeat all year.
One defeat all year. I think they'll win Munster.
And will Derby team win the O'Dowd Cup?
Well, quite possible. And you're in the last four. And as I said previously, you look at the teams, the potential winners that are gone: Kilmacud, the Glen, Corofin, Laune Rangers.
Kilcore's still there.
Still there.
And Cooler still there. So I wouldn't be
it's not easy, Murt. But
they have every chance.
Exactly.
They have every chance. John, you were talking about Kieran O'Leary. Kieran O'Leary coming on is huge. Kieran, I think at one stage, I remember in one game, he looked like a guy who starred in Rocky 2 or Rocky 3. So he's a tough campaigner as well as being a very good footballer. They have that bit of toughness as well, that bit of steel, haven't they? Yeah,
his very first touch was kicking the ball over the bar when he came on the last day. And it's just like a trademark Kieran O'Leary. Like as is the case, as Clive mentioned there, all Dr. Crokes players, and it's something that Paul Ganey mentioned a lot to us during the course of the year, it's about footballing IQ. Game intelligence, knowing what to do when you have the ball, picking the right options, knowing whether you should pass or knowing whether you should kick for a score yourself. All the Dr. Crokes players, they have to be comfortable on the ball, or you probably won't get your place on this Dr. Crokes
No,
team.
you won't. And did you see where, I think Tony Brosnan in the second half and late on as well, he kicked a point over with his right leg. Was I seeing? No, that was incredible. So he can use both feet. Like I thought he had the right leg for standing on it, but obviously he has not. Clive,
Steve-O won like that.
Oh, Steve-O will be grand. My son Steve-O, after I interviewed him that day, we're friends for life. Clive, tell me, what did you think of Castlehaven? I think on the day I was slightly disappointed with them. Maybe happily, because seeing Crokes win was important, I suppose, for Kerry football down the line, etc. But and we don't win too many senior club All Irelands or semi-finals or Munster finals of recent vintage, really. Rally's won it a number of years ago, of course, and we're beaten after by Kilmacud, wasn't it? Only just. Clive, what do you think of the Cork champions?
I think the scoreline is a fair reflection of where both teams are at. I know Castlehaven got the penalty coming down the stretch, but Crokes tagged on scores again. So the 7 point margin, I think, reflects where they are. They won the Cork County final relatively easy enough against Nemo, but how strong is that? How strong is that county championship? Is the question. They've been kind of to and from with Nemo the last couple of years.
Don't leave Liam Weir hear you saying that. Go on.
Nemo and Castlehaven have been battling away in the last couple of years, but okay, they got over on penalties last year against Dingle, but Damien Callan obviously was a huge loss, and Rory Maguire was a huge loss. There's no doubt about that. When Damien came on, you could just see he was hard running for it. He was trying his best. And you could see the difference if he was there for the hour,
Yeah.
it would have made a difference. But I think the gap of 7 points reflects the gap between the teams.
Yeah, I think on that, I think Castlehaven and their management, I think they'll be disappointed with their big name players.
Yeah.
I think you have to say, like, for the two Hurleys and Jack Cahalane, who had destroyed Laune Rangers in the county final, for them to score 1 point from play between the three of them over the course of the hour. And if you go back to Brian Hurley's point from play, it actually came about from a shot for goal by Mark Collins through a phalanx of bodies that Shane Murphy made a fantastic save, and Brian Hurley just tapped over the rebound, you know.
Yeah.
So they will be disappointed with them. I thought their best players were their young players, the Thomas O'Mahony's, the Jack O'Neill's, Jamie O'Driscoll, the number 10. He went back and did a great job on Micheál Burns. There was two number 10s up against each other. And their corner forward, Cathal Maguire, he kicked their first point. And he set up the penalty as well. He was involved in that incident that led to the penalty. I thought he was probably their best player overall. He didn't play as a corner forward. He played out the field, got his hands on an awful lot of ball. No, I think Mark Collins, now, to be fair to him, their captain, got through a lot of work in the sweeper role, handled a lot of balls. So I wouldn't blame him by any means. But I just thought their big guns up front, they never fired at all.
Right. One final word from you, John, or anyone to be. I thought the refereeing performance was excellent. Sometimes I hear people, and we're accused of, just if a referee makes a mistake, getting on his back and criticising him, and you'd often hear it if you're listening to commentators or analysts or whatever, always giving out about the referee. I thought in the circumstances, big game, big crowd, the atmosphere that was there, I thought he did very well. Sean Lonigan, was it?
Yeah, I thought he did. And first of all, you should say the two teams wanted to play football as well.
Yeah,
you have to say that. But I think the biggest tribute you can pay to a ref, I think, is that he's inconspicuous.
Yeah.
He made the big calls. He made the correct calls.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He let play go. He wasn't fussy, and I think he had a very good day. But as I said, contributed to that was the attitude of both teams. They played ball, and that's their style, both teams, both Castlehaven and Crokes.
Yeah. John O'Dowd.
Yeah, I think outstanding refereeing performance. I think Sean Lonergan is a referee who's going to go places. And I think we'll be seeing him in a lot of bigger games over the next 5 years and thereafter. I thought, when you consider, like, there was 2 penalties, there was a red card. He allowed, as John says, he allowed the game to be physical once it was fair. Any back chat, any dissent towards him resulted in yellow cards. He stamped down on that for both teams.
Yeah.
He booked players for persistent fouling, not for their first or second small foul.
Yeah.
He allowed them to tot up a certain amount before dishing out the yellow card. No, I thought, for me, one of the best individual refereeing displays I've seen in a long time.
Would you agree, Clive?
Yeah, I think what both teams look for going out is consistency, and he was consistent.
Yeah, and I think we also we'll finish on that game now, and we look forward obviously next week to Crokes heading to Waterford. But yeah, I think overall, Carl McMahon and his grounds committee and his groundsmen, etc., can be very happy with the pitch they produced. I think Owen Brosnan as chairman and all those who work behind the scenes in Crokes, the committee, etc., can take hats off to them. A wonderful organisation on the day, and of course as well to as we said, the mothers and others, the women's committee who do the catering, look after the players, look after the media, look after everybody, and to a certain John C. O'Shea, who looked after. He's not here today, so we're lucky he'll watch this stuff, and he made sure that the media was looked after. He had accommodation for 12 people. 5 were supposed to show up, but John O'Dowd brought 4 or 5 from Tarbert, and we had 14. But I think at the end of the day, everybody was looked after. It was a huge job of work, but it showed what Dr. Crokes as a club in Killarney, and I suppose what it means to them. They're super organised, and it was a great day for them, and the fact that they won it was obviously a bonus, and well done to Pat O'Shea and his players as well. And his daughter, her name escapes me, who Leah, who does the PR work and looks after the media, and she's so gentle and nice. She obviously takes after her mother, but so gentle and nice and accommodating, and she'd do anything for you. Brilliant, and it's full marks and plaudits to the club. By the way, Pat, I was only joking. Would he take exception to that, I wonder? No, he wouldn't. No. Right, let's move on to Saturday. Well, we'll move backwards to Saturday. Oh, the stacks are... Oh, sorry, I'm here in the Gael Clubhouse. I'll keep my voice down. Thanks to Gael, by the way, for giving us this facility again this week. And another town team here in Tralee. I'm delighted when town teams, particularly in Tralee, Gael are senior at the moment, and I don't know how long more, but they're senior anyway, and Austin Stacks have joined the ranks. They're up again after 2 years down, I think. I might have read somewhere where one fellow said they were 1 year down, but they were 2 years down. They were beaten last year along the way. I think was it Fossa that beat them last year? On penalties, yeah. And this year they came good. In the original game, of course, they were pushed all the way by Laune Rangers, but a combination of injuries to Laune Rangers and a real sort of upping the ante by Stacks got them home. Although John Kennedy, it wasn't a spectacle of a game, but that's not taking away from Stacks. They were the better team. But if you were, if you wanted to go to see an attractive attacking game with loads of scores, etc., that never happened.
No, and sometimes Murt, you get replays and they tend to play out that way. The big gap certainly, I think, is something that needs to be looked at by the county board. I think it's
wrong.
In fairness to both Liam Hassett and Billy Lee, they didn't make a meal out of it, or didn't make an issue. Yeah. But how do you keep teams ticking over? Certainly, Laune Rangers came off second best in that because of the injuries and players missing. The likes of Fiachra Clifford, Owen Hassett, Tom Whittleton. They need those players.
Whittleton was a massive loss.
Massive loss.
Obviously, Owen Hassett, he came on, but still, I don't think he was right.
No, not right. Yeah, but as you said, I mean, the scoreline 114 to 5 points. Stacks, they're back. I think where everybody thinks they should be as a senior club, and certainly themselves. The amount of players they have coming through, the amount of talent they have, but still, there's still question marks, particularly up front.
Yeah.
Are they transferring their superiority in possession into scores? I think 7 first half wides the last day. That's the difference between being comfortable and,
do you know what they need? They need a Gavin O'Shea. We didn't mention Gavin, by the way. That wasn't deliberate, and the Crokes and Gavin had a fine game again. Lincoln play again, and he's now closely watched because every team know that if you curb Gavin, you have a chance of curbing the attack. Didn't happen for Castlehaven, obviously. But in a similar way for the Stacks, I think their problem is, I know Kieran Donnelly's been working with them along with Billy Lee, who's an excellent manager, an inter-county manager, but you'd have to say that they're still not firing on all cylinders up front. From 1 to 9, as we said last week, we said from 1 to 9 they're excellent, which they were. Up front, they still haven't been sort of firing on all cylinders. And one of our panel members, it might have been me or it could have been Clive, said that they'd win by about 10 points. I think they'd definitely win. I've never seen a panel give a verdict last week. Everybody who was here said Stacks would win more, and they were kind of 100% that Stacks would win. Now, nothing against Laune Rangers, but that just showed that everybody felt that if Stacks could play to 70, 75%, 80% of their ability, they would win it. John O'Dowd, would you agree with that? We felt that Stacks were a good proposition to win this.
I think Laune Rangers, as the underdog, if they were going to win, they had to win the first day, or the replay had to be played pretty immediately after the first day.
Yeah.
Because they kind of had the momentum. They had the better semi-final. Their game against Fossa was of a higher standard than the Stacks game against Glenbeigh-Glencar.
Hang on a second, Glenbeigh-Glencar are a good team. I come from there.
One of your clubs.
Yeah,
they gave as good as they got to Austin Stacks in the drawing game. They got 2 goals that day. They had Ryan Diggin coming on and getting an equaliser in extra time. But they needed the game to be played soon after that if they were to have any hope. Stacks had some injuries, if you remember back around the time of the drawing game.
Yeah.
Jack O'Shea wasn't 100% fit. Ronan Shanahan wasn't fit to play at all. Greg Horn went into the drawing game with a dislocated finger.
Yeah.
I thought what was fascinating was you could sense over the 9-week gap and Billy Lee mentioned it, Greg Horn mentioned it to a certain extent, a lot of the work that Stacks did in the 9 weeks was of a mental nature rather than physically on the pitch. I'd say they really...
And who'd be best to do that in Stacks, would you say?
Well,
who had been with an inter-county team during the year?
Yeah, there was a lot of work done off the field from Austin Stacks. They got all the injuries cleared up. They had a full-strength squad at their disposal. And even though, as John said, they had 7 wides in the first half, and the half-time score, 6-2, it did not reflect in any way the dominance of Austin Stacks. Like, the game should have been over, dead and buried by half-time. But looking at it there, they scored 1-8 in the second half, and according to my notes, which might be wrong, they had no wide. I have no wide registered for Austin Stacks in the second half, which shows you the improvement that they made. But Greg Horan, he stood up as a captain. He said afterwards in interviews that even though he was injured, carrying the finger injury into the drawn game, he was not happy with his own performance. He felt he let his team down. He let himself down. As a captain, he didn't lead from the front that day. And he really was the man who made everything tick the last day. You talk about a Gavin O'Shea figure. Greg Horn was a combination of a Gavin O'Shea and a Micheál Burns maybe the last day. Because he did the playmaking role and he kicked 3 excellent points from play. He had a hand in everything that the Rock Street Club did the last day. Like, it was a unanimous man of the match decision from everyone who was there. It delayed the presentation of the cup because he was the captain as well, and he was interviewed on Clubber beforehand, which the county board wanted. They wanted
but they wanted a 2-minute interview, and you kept him for 15.
But I think Clive can talk about it in more detail now. But for me, the strength and depth of Austin Stacks, especially at intermediate level, it's phenomenal. I'm just going to pick out 5 names that didn't even see any action the last day. Austin Stacks used 5 subs. They used 20 players. Barry Shanahan, who started the first day. Adam Curran, who was centre-back for a lot of this competition. Conor Horan, Sean Quilter, Jordan Cassan. Those 5 players didn't see a minute of action the last day. So they were in the numbers 21 to 25.
Unbelievable.
That will tell you everything.
Strength and depth.
That what Stacks have going for them. And if there are improvements they can make up front, for certain. Michael O'Donnell, massive impact coming into the team.
I suggested, I told him that he should come in, so I probably should take credit there.
But their defence, and you could throw that defence into the senior county championship. In any team, that starting 6 for Austin Stacks at the back the last day. When you've got 3 Kerry panellists, a former Kerry panellist in Jack O'Shea, and 2 other top-notch defenders in Paul O'Sullivan and Colin Griffin, and then you can bring on a Cullen Brown and a Ronan Shanahan, etc. at the back line. It's fantastic defence, isn't it, Clive?
Yeah, and they're never a team that will comprehensively blow a team out of the water. Big scores, but they're very systematic. Even with that, they still had 10 different scorers the last day, so they're not relying on
one player or a free taker or something.
And they have players, Paddy Lane is capable of putting up scores. I know Shane O'Callaghan didn't score the last night, but he's another, has been a good score getter down through the years. But they had a spread of 10 different scorers. The 3 in defence, Armin, Joey and Dylan got up and scored points. And it was a game, and it was one very crucial intervention. It was Stacks were totally dominant, but we're still only 3 points to 0 up. And Laune Rangers had a great chance, and there was an absolutely stunning tackle by Jack O'Shea with a hand. Missed times it, it's a penalty, it's a goal, and it's probably a level game after
20 minutes,
and Stacks had played all the football. It was a brilliant tackle, clean, crisp, on the ball, and you could see the life was draining out of Rangers at that stage, because they hadn't played well, but they were still only 2-3 points down. They were turning over ball, 5 points over the course of the game, was not going to trouble anybody. But that tackle by Jack O'Shea, it was just the timing of it, and it just knocked the stuffing out of Rangers, and they kicked on in the second half. Stacks not, putting up a massive score, but still, and wouldn't have been at their best. When they look back at it going forward in their campaign, they'll say, they weren't maybe at their best the last day, but they didn't have to be. But they were very controlled. They were very strong in the tackle, very clean, giving good pitches to the referee, and turning Rangers over, and they just drained the life out of Laune Rangers.
Yeah, John Kennedy, Jimmy Darcy, very early in the club championship campaign, before they ever, I'd say to me, even before one of the group games, or maybe certainly after one, he said that Austin Stacks were good enough to get to Croke Park. Are they?
Yeah, like Murt, I suppose you look at the championships in Kerry, junior and intermediate, we've been hugely successful when the teams come out and go on.
But we've only 8 senior teams. If we had more senior teams, we'd be less. Actually, it'd be up junior instead of novice. But go on.
It depends. Ulster, we're not sure who's in Ulster intermediate. They're always decent.
Tyrone teams
Tyrone is
tough,
right, But look, the Stacks, like the lad said, look, they have the squad of players. It's just to get that balance right. And if they can tweak it up front, not alone this year but going forward, they have huge talent. Look at all the guys that have wore county jerseys. And likes of Paddy Lane and Daniel Kirby, they're only young for us. They're still playing school football.
They'll be playing school football tomorrow. It probably will be.
Absolutely. And like Shane Callan coming in is a shrewd move. Shane is a superb footballer, and down through the years, like Clive said, he's done it. And he's
Frank King's grandson.
Grandson is right, yeah. But he's a steady influence up front. And Paul O'Sullivan had a great outing at wing back. The former Valencia player. Great.
It was good to see Brendan coming on. Considering the year the two of us.
I thought it was the most poignant moment of the entire afternoon when he came on and he kicked the last point of the game. It brought the biggest roar and the biggest ovation from the Austin Stacks supporters.
Faithful,
and I think for the teammates, and I touched on it with Jack O'Shea afterwards, it was special because the two boys have given great leadership in very trying circumstances over the last two seasons. And I think for the whole squad, Saturday was kind of for the O'Sullivans as well. So it was lovely to see it.
And I think one other thing, Murt, there was an interview by Billy Lee I thought was brilliant. He spoke about guys asking him why the lads were allowed to play with the schools and that, and he said they're young fellas, they play football. And he said there's a lot of tragedies in the world and a lot of pressure. And I thought it was refreshing to hear it from a manager that wanted to win. There was under huge pressure to win a county title, but it's about playing football at the end of the day.
I read that interview. He gave a great interview.
Super.
And he said,
huge humility. He's a very humble person.
He is.
He said something as well at one stage, what he enjoys about it is seeing the players enjoying it and being content with life. And he says, that's all you want, is to be content with life. He said, we don't need to be making millions. We just need to be content. That there's enough sadness in communities, around clubs, all over the world. So just go and enjoy your football.
Yeah, his humanity comes through.
And it's genuine.
Values.
It's genuine.
It's not put on, no. I've spoken to him sort of off the record when we meet him at a game or something, and he really strikes you as a very, very humble man, as John said. Clive, a word about Laune Rangers. I mean, look, it was a long delay for them. They lost on Hassett, they lost on O'Sullivan, was it after 17 minutes or something, or whatever it was. Too many lads out, Tom Whittleton missing, Fiacre in Australia. The heart was torn out of them and they fell behind. Things didn't go their way, and then they were, in the second half, they were really out of the game. I suppose they have a future because they have a lot of young players playing, the Cliffords, etc., and the Hassets, and they will have their day along the way, hopefully, but it wasn't on Sunday.
No, and
Saturday.
As mentioned earlier, they probably needed that replay the following week, or minimum 2 weeks after that to keep momentum. They are young, and Liam Hassett is a very proud Laune Rangers man, and this is his second stint there. The last time he was there, he did great work when they were at county championship level as well. They will be trying to get back. No, competition will be stiff next year. There's no guarantees of getting back with the teams that are in the intermediate. But if they have a full hand to play with, and their injuries are cleared up, they will be there or thereabouts. But it was just a tough one to take, and when you get to final, lose the final, there's you're not looking at next year right away. It's just a defeat in front of you have to face. And
is that a kind of a personal kind of a venting?
Speaking
from experience,
yeah. And just on that, I'd like to say fair play to Liam for the way he spoke afterwards. It's actually very similar to the way Clive spoke after the Ardfert Firies match. There was no excuses made.
Didn't blame the referee.
There's immense disappointment at the result, and immense disappointment for Laune Rangers the last day on the overall performance. But Liam was quite philosophical. He knows the strength and depth that Austin Stacks have. He knows the bodies that Laune Rangers were missing, even though he didn't want to pinpoint that as any kind of a reason. But he knows they're so young that if they do stick together, that they can come back because they have time on their side.
Yeah, and I suppose to Aidan Clifford, the chairman of the club, who is of this parish as well. He commentates with us on Clubber TV. We would like to say hard luck as well to Aidan. He puts his heart and soul into the club and organising things, etc. And he's their PRO as well, so he's always there to give to do reports and do different a lot of off the field work for him. So Aidan, chin up, my friend. There's always next year, and as Billy Lee would probably say, there's a lot more important things in life than football, or a lot more worse things can happen to you than losing a football final. I know at the time it's tough, but I always wonder, when you win a semi-final, do players, when they celebrate, realise that it mightn't go for them in the final? In other words, what I'm saying is that when you get to final, there's got to be losers. So one team is going to have a Monday club, and the other team are going to have a period of mourning, getting over it, and I think that should be taken. But
that's in a nutshell why you have to enjoy the semi-final victories. Absolutely. You have to enjoy the quarter-final victories.
Absolutely.
You have to enjoy the getting out of the group stage victories. Because at the end of the day, every competition, there's only going to be one team that are the ultimate winners. So it's all about enjoying the little moments along the way.
Absolutely. Now, another team who has done very well, Clive, you can clock out here if you want, but I know you won't. Firies went to Waterford on Saturday, and they played Fenor, and up to half time it was tight enough, and they were still in front, but they weren't actually. But in the second half, James Horgan decided to put on Superman costume on him, and he scored 4-8 in total, 4-4 from play. John, well, I better not question the East Kerry manager, whether he'll be there next year or not, Jerry O'Sullivan, but James Horgan, I don't think made an appearance for East Kerry in the county championship. If he did, it was a very fleeting one, and yet now I know it's a different level. Seeing a county championship to junior, and that's what Jerry would say to me, I'm sure. But James Horgan,
I think from an East Kerry perspective, I wouldn't be blaming the management or anything for that.
I'm not blaming Jerry.
No, it was just difficult for any of the Firies newcomers, shall we say, the youngsters who are coming through the ranks, to make any kind of an impression, because they were so busy in that junior premier competition that by the time they came in to East Kerry, the lads had obviously probably finalised the majority of their team in any case. And really it was just Niall Donoghue, who had been there before. He'd been there and done it. Jack Sherwood, if he was fit, he would have been in there because he'd been there and done it. So from James Horgan's perspective, and Clive will probably can say more about this, James probably would have been a bit disappointed with his county final performance, because when you go back to the semi-final against Ballymac, I think he scored 10 or 11 points that day. He was sensational. But I think Ardfert did a fantastic job. Who was marking him that day, Clive?
Sean Brosnan.
Yeah, did a superb job. I think James only scored 1 point from play in the county final, maybe 3 frees. So last Saturday was a big one for him. He's an immensely talented youngster. It's just funny how the way it goes. Like, he had a quiet county final. Stephen Palmer kicked 3 great points from play. I don't think Stephen scored the weekend, and James comes along and gets 4-8. But that's probably a great sign for Firies as well. They're not overly dependent on anybody.
Yeah, I think James might have been carrying an injury towards the back end of the group stages in the club championship, and that might have helped his cause with his Kerry. Because I don't think he started against Currow in the quarter final, so he might have had a niggle. The first half, I think Firies travelled up Saturday morning as well, so maybe the first day was a bit sluggish. It's a fair journey. So, I wouldn't read too much into the first half. They done what they had to do. They blitzed them in the second half.
Yeah.
There's Cap, I think, next from Limerick.
Yes.
They'll be fine, and that's the Kerry venue. And it'd be nice to see it in Farm 4 if I think John mentioned earlier about we played them in Farm 4 as well. And lovely ground. Facilities
have improved. There were car park, dressing rooms, everything.
Yeah, and they have a nice tidy stand.
And
it'd be great if they could have that. Home venue dressing rooms are spotless. Everything is laid on for opposition. So as I said, it'd be nice if they could hold that game there. And then they'll be on to Munster final with probably Kilmurray maybe.
Kilmurray, they've got to play.
They struggled with Michael Cusack last week in Clare. And they have to play
Kilcormac, yeah. By the time maybe Dorney's finished with them, there mightn't be much shape to play anyone on the 23rd. We'll have to get to Eden to sort that out.
But I think Firies will have enough for what's left in the Munster side of it.
Yeah.
And,
they're very strong.
Yeah.
I'd say they're very strong favourites to win. Depending on Kilmurray now, that's the big Cork opposition.
And the longer they stay in it, the closer it'll be for Jack Sherwood to come back, because he's not far away now. So
and this is Kilmurray's third year in it.
It is, and they've failed. Who did they play last year that beat them again? They didn't perform at all.
Fossa the year before.
They really haven't performed. Right, lads. Now tell me this: what chance have we of doing a treble in terms of Dr. Crokes winning the senior, Stacks winning the intermediate, and Firies winning the junior? Now, obviously, every club will tell you it's a game at a time, etc. But looking at it and looking at what's left now in it, you'd have to say there's a reasonably good chance that we're doing the treble.
Oh, there's a great chance, Murt. But you'll always, it's difficult to know at that level. And like we said earlier on, Tyrone come up with junior and intermediate teams in the north.
Yeah, I thought about Munster.
Oh, and Munster, there's no question. We'll win the treble in Munster.
We'll win the treble in Munster?
Yeah.
John Kennedy has just decided, has given, this will be taken out and played in every dressing room and every team meeting in the other games, the other teams that are facing the Kerry teams and saying, this is what Kerry think of us, lads, let's go out and disprove it. Neither Firies, Crokes, nor Austin Stacks will invite you to their social, right?
Going on what we've seen now, with the exception of Kilmurray, maybe.
I agree with you. I'm joking.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, that we have the footballing ability to do it, but you still have to go out and do it.
I don't think you'll get a big price on three winning either.
Wouldn't you?
No.
Well, now, you're a wise old owl. Well, you're not old. You're a wise middle-aged. No, you're not. You're a wise young owl, right? So are you telling me, because most of the suggestions and tips that you've given on here, you predicted a draw, you said Stacks were as good a team, and I know it was in the WhatsApp group or whatever. You said a 10-point win. You said a 7-point win for the Crokes. He
was 8 out of 8 one week when we had 8 games in the county championship, including a draw.
That was luck. But anyway, Clive, do you think the three teams have a big chance? I'd say, haven't they?
Huge, and as I said, the price would be very sharp, and I'd say the price outright in All Ireland wouldn't be huge either.
You think they could go all the way?
Gone out to the junior. Ballinderry are still left in intermediate from Derry. They were one an All Ireland senior club not too long ago, so they might test the Stacks. I think it's Munster-Ulster semi-finals. But the three of them have a great chance of winning outright All Ireland.
Would you go along with that, John? You're normally a very cautious individual.
Well, obviously, like you said, Murt, there'll be no question of Pat O'Shea, Billy Lee, or Seamus O'Connor getting ahead of themselves. They'll just be looking at the next opponent and focusing on that. But with the reputation that we have, especially at junior, to a lesser extent intermediate, our teams will be expected to go a long way once you come out of Kerry, and especially with the calibre of their respective teams. They have different strengths. Austin Stacks are probably the best defensive side of the three teams. Then you'd probably say maybe Firies have an excellent
Forward
overall
division.
team where
Overall,
they're not dependent on one player or another. And then Dr. Crokes have that kind of attacking flair with the Tony Brosnans and everything.
Football IQ, football intelligence.
I think the way to speak of it, if it does happen at a Munster level, is to call it a quadruple, because the ones who set the standard was last weekend with Castlehaven Desmond's ladies. They're our first Munster club football champions this year, so it's up to the three men's teams to try and follow in their footsteps, because
so we had Clonmorris on, but then up they don't play football. You had Eddie Murphy on, and they were the first to win a Munster this weekend because they were on Saturday, and just because you weren't there, you were pontificating in Killarney, you completely ignored Clonmorris. Absolutely typical, a man who has no love for hurling or anything like that. He comes along and he demoralisingly says that the quadruple, it's what is it? Quintuplets, is it?
Isn't that fair,
in football,
John?
in football, yeah.
But a lot of those girls in Clonmorris play football as well. Anyhow, that's the show for this week. We are looking forward, of course, on Clubber TV and everybody who can get to the game live as well, providing Aidan isn't there collecting parking in something, charging for parking. If he is, don't pay him, because all the parking will be free about Abbeydorney. I might have to leave my house for the day and give up my field. What do you think, lads? It's a bit far away. It's 2 miles down to the village. But anyway, we're really looking forward to next weekend on Sunday. And the visit of Cashel Kilcormac's, and the great Viking hopefully might be there himself, Cormac, and we have all the Bonners, Cormac and Cullum, and etc. And it looks like it's going to be a great occasion. It's going to be a huge crowd. If you had a huge crowd in Killarney last weekend and a great organisation, I think Abbeydorney can match that, because it's a smaller pitch, obviously smaller surroundings. And I'd say there'd be 2.5, maybe 3,000 people if they can fit that much in Abbeydorney on Sunday. So it's not to be missed. Big day for the club, big day for hurling, and big day for the county as well. If we can get another team through to a Munster final to follow in the footsteps of Kilmiley, who went all the way a couple of years ago to an All-Ireland final, and unluckily beaten by Naas by a single point. I was in Croke Park, would you believe, on that day. So that's the podcast for this week. We'll be back again next week, and I'd like to thank my panel again. John Kennedy, thank you for your contributions. John O'Dowd, who was in on the hurling as well, and the camogie, although he denied the camogie like St. Peter 3 times since, but he was in on it. And of course, Clive for his excellent analysis again. Thank you, Clive, and his predictions. We'll keep him to him. He thinks that the Kerry teams, the three of them, the club teams, might win the Munster titles, and we go for a treble there after that. We'll worry about that later on in the new year. So that's it. Only now it's to thank the club here in the Gael for giving this facility again this week. Thanks very much to the Gael. Hope I didn't mention Austin Stacks too many times to upset them. And finally, the man behind the camera who does all the work, keeps us on air and keeps us in relatively good order when he can. That's John C. O'Shea. Thanks, John. And remember again, as I said, Clubber TV is the place to watch exclusive and live. If you're from Tipperary and can't make it down, or if you're abroad and support Abbeydorney or anything in any of the Kerry, not Kerry hurling teams, the place to watch it is on Clubber TV. As I said, sometime between 12:30 and 1:15 we'll be starting, and the game starts, the throw-in is at 1:15, 1:15 on Sunday. The AIB Munster Intermediate Club hurling semi-final between Abbeydorney, not Hartford, it's Abbeydorney versus Cashel Kilcormac's. This is Murt Murphy.
And I suppose, Murt, just before we go, I suppose we mustn't forget the South Kerry Senior Football Championship final on Saturday between St. Mary's and Drummond Pierce's.
Yeah. Brian Sheehan, who's in his early 40s, like Clive, he will be in goals for St. Mary's, and we have Graham O'Sullivan playing in that final for Drummond Pierce's, and I'd say there's no fear that Graham O'Sullivan will take any rest this weekend. That's impossible. And of course, Sunday the Mid-Kerry final. And that's
Beaufort and
between
Kiel.
Beaufort and Kiel. And my own nephew, of course, I have a brother living in Kiel, Aidan, who's done some commentaries with us on Clubber. He'll be hoping that Kiel will win, but I have bad news for my nephew. I think you're going to lose this one. I think Beaufort are going to win it. So I'm going for Beaufort and Mary's, I think. What are you doing? What are you doing, John?
Beaufort and Mary's, I think you're right.
What do you think?
Yeah, I nearly have to agree with that double.
Clive will go something...
I'll go Kiel.
You go Kiel. You coach Kiel and trained him, didn't you?
Kiel and Drummond.
Oh, no.
Kiel and Drummond for Clive. How do you get on in Kiel? You got on grand with him, did you?
Fine, yeah.
Yeah, he left it very quickly, boys. No. Clive got on very well in Kiel. He was well liked back there. I know that for a fact. So that's it for now. Back again next week.